The relationship between flexibility, performance, and injury prevention is a very tricky area to study, because all the so-called evidence is very contradictory, and some studies will conclude that stretching will not prevent injuries or increase performance, while others will say the opposite. Test people and parameters are sometimes cherry-picked to favor one side, and results can therefore be very biased. With all those contradictions thrown at us, the only thing we're left with is our own common sense, which can prove to be enough sometimes. There is one thing, however, that we can be very certain of. Flexibility is very sport-specific. Certain sports will require it to higher degrees than others, and some researchers even state that it can be a hindrance in some sports. Wrestling is in the former category. It requires high levels of flexibility. This is a no-brainer. If you watched my last wrestling video, I explained the importance of flexibility for wrestling, how it allows you to move into better positions, defend takedowns better, and possibly prevent injuries, and how elite wrestlers are usually more flexible than their non-elite counterparts. We shouldn't have to dive in too deep to look for studies and research that confirms this. I mean, it really is a no-brainer. Wrestling is a sport that is characterized by complex movement, and if you can't move effectively because of stiffness, you're seriously limiting yourself. Just look at your average takedown attempt or a belly-to-back throw in Greco-Roman wrestling, for example, or how your joints get twisted in all different angles when you're defending a takedown. If that is not enough evidence that flexibility is needed in wrestling, then I don't know what is. The sooner you accept the fact that flexibility and mobility is a vital piece in wrestling, the sooner you will improve. Knowing that you can get into all sorts of weird and awkward positions and angles that your opponents can't, can be a huge confidence booster for you. Generally, there are two ways to become flexible. We have stretching and full range resistance training. You should do both of them. Let's start with stretching. Now, there are two forms of stretching that's often discussed. We have dynamic stretching and static stretching. Dynamic stretching is basically what you do before a wrestling practice. That is, arm circles, hip rotations, high knees, and all of those stuff. It's basically stretching in an active manner instead of holding it in a traditional static position. You probably do this before every practice already, so we're not gonna go into that a lot. The focus of this video will be static stretching, which is done ideally at the end of a workout, because if you do it at the start, it can decrease your power output for that session. Let's go through every stretching move. So first we have the regular squat stretch. You will squat down to the bottom as deep as you can, keep your chest forward, shoulders back, and a straight back. By first you won't be able to go down this deep, of course, but you do this every day and gradually you'll get deeper and deeper. Next up we have the adductor stretch here. Basically you squat down and stretch one of your legs to the sides here. Keep a straight back and shoulders back and chest forward here as well. Keep your heels on the ground. And go deeper and deeper every session. This is a gradual process. First you will have mobility issues, of course, but gradually you will be able to go deeper and deeper after every session successively. This is very good for your ankle mobility as well. Ankle mobility is a very vital piece in wrestling and almost sports in general. Never skip this, it's very good. Alternate between each side. Next we have the full splits, and if you're a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know what this is. You go down with both of your legs, use your hands to keep your balance so that you don't fall forward, and go deeper and deeper every session. Stretching should be uncomfortable, but it should not hurt. You're going to teach your body to get used into those weird positions, so you need to have the guts to go deep every time. Next up we have this sit and reach hamstring stretch, where you just sit down and try to reach forward as far as you can. Try to grab your legs and even go past that if you can. It's important that you have your legs, that they stay on the ground. You can't lift them up. Let them stay on the ground and reach as far as you can. This mainly targets your calf muscles, your hamstring muscles, and your glutes. Also your back, of course. Next up we have the lumbar flexion stretch. Basically you lie down on your back while keeping your other leg on the ground as well, and you reach for your shin right there as you can see, and you pull forward as far as you can. This will stretch your lower back, which is very important as well, and you alternate between each side. Now this stretch is mainly for your hamstring muscles. You lie down on your back like this, you grab your ankles and try to keep your other leg on the ground. It can be a bit tricky to do this on your own, so it's recommended that you use a band if you have one. And yeah, just pull the leg towards you and you should feel your hamstrings. Go as far as you can for that session. Now this one is very popular in yoga. I think it's called Recline the Hero or something, but it will stretch your whole back and your whole lower body. It really will test out your flexibility. If you can do this, I'm really impressed. Obviously from the beginning you might not be able to do this, but don't be discouraged. Just keep on working, going deeper and deeper every time, and you'll get there. Next up is our stretch for the back arch, which is very significant to wrestling, especially Greco-Roman. You can alternate between getting up on your toes, using your hands, using your head, get your elbows on the ground, just go into deeper positions. Make your body used to this. Now this one is very good for ankle mobility. Go into a lunge position like this and keep your heel on the ground as you can see, and let your knees pass your toes, like as you can see here. You see the ankles? It stretches your ankles tremendously and it helps you get into a bottom squat position, which many people lack the flexibility for. This is also very good for improving your shoots in wrestling, because this is basically the movement that you do when you shoot in wrestling, when you attempt to take someone down. This is very important. It's, I think, one of the top 3 most important stretches. Keep your chest forward as you can see, straight back. You stretch your back as well, your hamstrings, your glutes, everything. It's very good. Don't skip this. Next up is a stretch for your quad muscles, your quadriceps. You basically stand up, find somewhere to lean against so that you don't lose balance, grab your feet and stretch them back as far as you can. You should feel your quad muscles here. Do this on each leg and go as far as you can without hurting yourself. Next up is a stretch for your calf muscles. Lean against a wall like this, put your foot against the wall and cover as much area as you can with your foot and lean as forward as you can. Alternate between each leg. This is for your calf muscles, and you will also work on your ankle mobility as well. This one is for your arms, mainly your biceps. Basically put your palms on a wall that you can lean against like this and push against it facing away. You should feel it in your biceps. Very simple. Alternate between each side. This one is for your rotator cuff muscles and your delts or deltoids. Basically hug your elbow like this or put your palm against it and push against it. Try to go as far as you can without hurting yourself. It mainly works the rhomboids, if you want the fancy word, the fancy Latin word for it. And right after that you can transition into this tricep stretch. It's similar to the last one, but you do it upside and down. Put your palm on your elbow like this and push her against it. You should feel your tricep muscles, but of course you will work on the other parts of your rotator cuff as well. Finally, we will end with the neck. We use our necks a lot in wrestling, so it's important to stretch the neck as well. Pull it to the sides, pull it down and pull it up. Simple. Now you will also notice flexibility differences in each of your body parts. You might be more flexible in one body part and very stiff in another. In those stiff body parts you have to stretch extra. Do emphasize those parts a lot and spend more time and effort on them. And as mentioned earlier, you don't have to set a time limit for those stretches. Simply stretch for your maximum of that day. Hold it in that maximum position as long as you can, because that is the hot spot that we're after. Do this every day. And yeah, I understand, stretching can be boring sometimes. I mean, you're basically just lying down and doing a bunch of weird poses. I mean, it's hard to believe that's a workout, but I really want you to change your mindset here. Don't consider your workout finished until your stretching is finished. It's that simple. It's a part of your workout. It's not something separate. People like to separate those parts from their regular strength training or wrestling practice, for example. See it as a part of your workout. And for that purpose, to really make stretching a habit, I recommend a simple exercise for you. Grab a piece of paper and make 20 boxes on that paper. Each box represents one day. You want to... They say it takes about 20 days to form a habit. Now, I don't have any scientific evidence for that, but let's just play with that thought. You want to check your boxes for every day that you stretch, and after 20 days you will look at your list and you will be proud of yourself. You will see it as a challenge because now you're setting a goal, and you do not want to fail that goal. You will put more effort. And if you don't do it, you will see a ugly X on your checkbox, and you don't want that, so you will really try to achieve this. Now, let's go to our second method for increasing your flexibility as a wrestler. It's called full range resistance training. This is just fancy vocabulary that's used in studies. It basically means that you do strength training, but you use the full range of motion. So when you're doing a squat, you will do it the whole way. When you do a pull-up, you will pull yourself up the whole way. A common misconception is that strength training will make you stiff. If you do it correctly, the opposite is the case. You see, when you do a pull-up, for example, and you use the full range of motion, that is go down all the way and up all the way, you are stretching as well as building strength, like I mentioned in most of my videos. When you squat down all the way to the bottom, not some 90 degrees bullshit, and stand up and lock out completely, you're stretching and building strength. This is the definition of full range resistance training, using the full range of motion on the given exercise. I can't stress how important this is when it comes to developing flexibility. If you want to see this phenomenon expressed perfectly, take a look at your Olympic weightlifters. Some of them can really appear muscular and bulky. You would imagine they're stiff, but they actually have tremendous mobility that you could never imagine possible for someone with their physique. The snatch exercise is often regarded as one of the hardest exercises to perform in the weight room. It requires high levels of mobility, and they can execute them flawlessly. Bottom line is this: the next time you do strength training, deliberately use the full range of motion in every exercise you do. If you are inhibited by stiffness, challenge yourself to go further and further every time, every session. Remember, this is a slow and gradual process. You won't notice results after just one session. You need patience. It's very common, however, that you notice results after just a couple of weeks. Here is a study where they analyze a group of participants' flexibility changes after 5 weeks of full range resistance training, consisting of squats, pull-ups, bench press, and some other exercises. They noticed good results, and it even matched static stretching result-wise. Now imagine if you combine those two procedures, full range resistance training and static stretching, every session. You would definitely become a different athlete. Try it.